So we began with the series of learning RPD. We now know what an interim RPD is, but what is very important is the classification and the Applegate's rule. Something that is confusing, but if you know your Kennedy's classification well, you're sorted. So we are starting with classification and Applegate rule. And I'm Dr. Riddhi Lalan, prosthodontist and author of Dental Material Mind Map book and author of Prosthodontic Mind Map book, and I am here to teach you in a very fun way. Everything is going to be interesting when you're learning with me. So there was this one person who was so keen that he wanted to leave a legacy behind. He wanted to be remembered forever. So he was like, let me just make something so easy that just makes the entire world go crazy. And I am the one who pioneered there. So what happened now? Quickly recapitulating the classification. There were multiple authors and scientists that were interested in classifying the RPD. There was Skinner, there was Balin, there was Kumar. Everybody wanted to give something or the other. So what happened when the removable partial denture patient entered the clinic? Edward had this idea of, let's just simplify this system. Do you remember back in the days when actually SMS used to cost us? It was just 160 characters that you can send over one text. Similarly, writing a big description of what is missing actually becomes a tedious job. At the same time, communicating with somebody, let's say the laboratory person, or if you are referring to some other dentist, it is so difficult when you say, this tooth from this side is missing and this space. Rather, you can just circle whatever is missing and communicate. Now, at that point of time, back in the days, you used to not have this system of circling, of sending through telegrams. So it became very difficult. So what was done was, they came up with a classification which was very easy to communicate with others. Now, Edward Kennedy had multiple things in his mind, but then he actually wanted to make certain refinements and he sought help from Applegate. He said, your classification seems good, but there are certain clarifications that we need to have. When exactly do you want to classify? What are the spaces? Do you want to count the number? Do you want to count the number of tooth? Do you want to count the number of spaces? Everything needs to be specified. So Applegate was a critic who helped Kennedy make a very easy and simplify his classification. But there was this Godfrey who said, why do we want to classify based upon the spaces and the missing teeth? Let's classify on support and function instead. So other people were like, this really seems to be a very interesting way, but it's going to complicate. Function, support, function for anterior is different, posterior is different. So people said, we might not want to adapt to this. So then came another scientist who was Kratochvil. He said, we'll take biomechanics into consideration. We'll take stress into consideration. We'll see the fulcrum lines. We'll see everything and define. So Kennedy thought, okay, what I can do is I can keep my basic design, use certain modification of Applegate, and I'll be guiding this using the Kratochvil's principles of biomechanics. And this is exactly how Kennedy's classification came into picture. There were other classification based on the position, if it's diagonal, if it's in front of it, if it's posterior, all of these, but it was very confusing. And rather than simplifying, it just added more to the confusion. And in the end, it was Edward Kennedy and his dream of leaving the legacy behind that succeeded. So now we are going to actually understand the Kennedy's classification. But before that, Let's just understand why exactly do we want a classification in the first place. First thing is, even when I'm talking, so when I say class 2, I want you to picturize something that's unilateral posterior space. So it becomes very easy to visualize these types of edentulous arches. At the same time, it's going to serve as a guide. Now, if I know that for class 1 and class 2, it's a distal extension case, I will need something special. I will want to record a special impression. The designing is simplified. I will want to incorporate certain types of direct and indirect retainer. I am just categorizing the designs. At the same time, it's actually going to help us to differentiate if it's going to be tooth supported, tooth tissue supported, or is it going to be something else? Precision attachment, clasp attachment, all of this. So differentiation was made easy, and at the same time, it had to be accepted by everyone. Somebody sitting in US when says Kennedy's class 2 is going to be same for somebody sitting in India. It's not going to differ. So that is universal thing that was accepted. So what was the modification? Before that, let's just dive into the 4 basic types. So it was very easy. If you understand this once with attention, you are actually going to make it a permanent learning thing in your mind. So the first thing is, it was bilateral to the remaining natural teeth. 2 sides, bilateral to the midline, remaining natural teeth. Need not be symmetrical. So remember one thing, even if there's one tooth missing here and there are 2 teeth missing here, it is a bilateral thing. It will be Kennedy's class 1. So class 2 is going to be unilateral and it's going to be located posterior to the remaining natural teeth. Irrespective of how many of them are missing, if they don't have anything present behind them, they are class 2. Class 3 is going to be unilateral space that has anterior and posterior teeth. So now class 3 can be anywhere. Let's say this tooth alone was missing. That's also class 3. This central is missing. That's also class 3. But in scenario, when my space is going to cross the midline, it transforms from class 3 to class 4. So it's a single space, bilateral, because it is crossing the midline. It's on the both the side. It's one space, single space but bilateral. On both the sides, crossing the midline. Be very, very attentive when I say this, because if you get a figure of just one side, so let me just give you one example. Let's assume there were teeth present here, okay? But if only this was missing, this would have been class 3. But if these 3 were missing, again 3 teeth, but what made the difference? Midline made the difference. And this would have been your class 4. So this is all about class 1, 2, 3, 4. But what comes to my mind is, it's not always going to be one space or 2 spaces, right? Unilateral and bilateral. What if, let's assume, this is missing. So it is Kennedy's class 1. But a central is also missing. So is it class 3 or class 1? Or both of them are missing. Is it class 4 or class 1? For that, we had Applegate, who came with same modifications. So he had the same doubts as we have in our mind. And he said, let me give 8 simple rules that you can remember in order to never forget the classification. So one thing that he said was, if you feel that something is going to go for extraction, don't waste your energy twice. Always classify after extraction. So the classification always needs to happen after extraction. If you feel something was periodontally compromised, previously it would have been something else, but now the posterior one is missing, so it converted to class 2. Rather, you could have done that earlier, right? So you always consider your classification after extraction. This is rule number 1. Rule number 2, 3 and 4 will play around with your last abutment tooth. 2 and 3 will play with your third molar and 4 with your second molar. So now there is a confusion. I say third molar is not that important. I don't want to rehabilitate. So if the third molar is missing and not to be replaced, don't consider it in the classification. I will say third molar is missing. I'm never even going to replace that. But there are 8 teeth. So now I will consider that as class 2 always because 8 is usually missing. That's not the case. If you're not considering, not replacing, don't even take it into your classification. You start from 7 to 8. Simple. Now when will I not consider this? If the antagonist 8 is not present. If I don't have opposing teeth, I don't want to rehabilitate 8. In that situation, just don't consider into your classification. Third thing, if your third molar is present and I'm going to use it as my abutment, so I am planning to place my class onto it, then I am going to consider it in my classification. I will, if 6, 7 and 8 were missing, I'm going to say I'm going to rehabilitate 2 teeth. If only 8 is missing, I'm going to say I'm going to rehabilitate. Or let's consider other scenario. So if 8 is present and these 3 are missing, this will become class 3 because 8 is going to be considered. But at the same time, if 8 was not present, this would have converted into class 2. So it's very important. You need to decide. Do you want to use this third molar? If yes, use your third rule and consider it. You don't want to use this third molar, don't even consider it. Discard it from the classification as well. Use your rule number 2. So now third molar present or absent will determine 2 and 3. So now rule number 4 does not say that if second molar is present, consider. That is present. But if second molar is missing and you need not want to replace it. So there is this one concept that is known as shortened arch concept, in which you rehabilitate from 6 to 6. Now I know that my antagonist only has first molar. Why to give 2 molars on the back when the opposite is also missing? Rather, I will consider my dentition from first molar on one side to your third molar on another. So only when I want to replace my second molar will I consider it. If it's present, I have to consider. But if it's missing and I don't plan on to replacing it, I need not. I know rule number 2, 3 and 4 can be slightly confusing, but just remember one thing. Rule number 1, do the extraction, then start with classification. Rule number 2 and 3. So first thing is, if it's missing, I'm going to talk about missing. So if third molar is missing and not to be replaced, don't consider. If it is present and it's to be considered, consider. If second molar is missing and not to be considered, don't consider it in your classification. So I can easily say it's third molar missing, third molar present, second molar missing. Just follow this sequence of missing, present. First you start from third molar, then you go to your second molar. And these 4 rules are done. Now, the 5th rule says most posterior teeth will determine the classification. So if this is missing and this is missing, what is the most posterior teeth? It's your third molar. So now what does this become? It becomes a unilateral space. It's bilateral. You're correct. It's present on both the side, but bilateral with no natural teeth remaining posterior. There is a natural teeth, right? So what I'm going to do is, I will consider this as my unilateral space. This becomes class 2, and this, according to your rule number 6, is going to be called as modification. So anything apart from the one that helps me determine my classification will be considered as modification. Keep it very simple. So this will be mod. How many modifications are present? 1. You don't count the number of teeth. You just count the number of spaces. So this is mod 1. So extent and not the number of teeth is rule number 7. Rule number 6 is anything apart from that used in classification space will be your modification space. And how many modification space will not be determined by number of missing teeth, just the number of missing space. So let's just solve this. What is the most posterior tooth? This third molar that is missing. So this again becomes class 2. Now here there are 2 teeth that are missing and 3 teeth that are missing. Does that matter to me? No. How many modification space? 2. So this will be known as class 2 mod 2. This is mod 1, this is mod 2, does not matter. I am just considering the number of spaces and not the number of teeth. Let's solve this. So this will be class 2 mod 1 and this will also be class 2 mod 1. What changed? Number of teeth. What did not change was the number of spaces. Both of them have 1 space. So this is your rule number 7. Rule number 8 says that if at all class 4 is present, it will never have modification space. Because if there are any modification space, it means that it has gone behind. And that becomes your primary space to determine your classification. So what is this going to become? This is going to become class 3 mod 1. And if this was also present, then this would have simply become class 4. So class 4 can never have modification space. If modification space is present, the classification changes and the space that was actually going to be class 4 will become modification because it's anterior. So this was about your Kennedy's classification. Let's just quickly revise. First thing, so it is always after extraction. Third molar if missing and not to be replaced, don't consider. Third molar if present and to be used as abutment, consider. Second molar if missing and not to be replaced, don't consider. Fifth thing was most posterior space is going to be the determinant for your classification. Anything apart from the determinant space will be your modification space. Number of missing teeth does not matter. Extent does not matter. All we are concerned about is the number of spaces that are present. Class 4 can never have any modification space. And this was altogether 8 Applegate rule. So I hope this was easy for you to remember. Okay, modification spaces are not considered in class 4. I just thought it's very easy. Okay, quickly let's just identify this. So what is the most posterior space with this teeth? So this is going to become class 1 or 2? Unilateral. So it's going to be class 2. This is going to be modification 1 and 2. So I can easily say that it's class 2 mod 2. Now what I want you to do is gather n number of images from any source and sit down and start classifying using this Kennedy's classification and Applegate's rule. At least 10. And if you face any problem or you have any doubt, feel free to contact the WhatsApp number that we have provided here. This WhatsApp number is meant to guide you. It will help you select the book that you need. It will help you select the material that you need. It will help you select the subject that you would want to focus more on. It will help you connect with your subject matter expert. Feel free to post a comment here. Feel free to reach out to our experts and we'll make sure that you understand the concept really well. If you have liked this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.